think it's on course home.
She'll be a different day. Okay, I do not understand why this is not working.
Yeah, the only one I have is the one about midterm. Interesting.
Son of a gun. I guess I could show this and then just bring it back. Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, so let's just, actually, I'm going to start with, okay, 1.A. Okay, so online, did you guys see the family signs? Yes, yes. Anybody know? Okay, everybody saw it. So you know the sign for family. These fingers, yeah, coming around like this, and you get mommy, daddy, brother, sister, uncle, aunt. Cousin is generic, cousin boy, cousin girl, and step brother, step sister, so you kind of like fake, you know. So what I would like you to do, dog, remember we do dog? There's 3 ways to do dog. There's this, and then there's this. Okay, so what I'd like to know is your family makeup. Your immediate family. So, okay, so immediate family means the people you live with. Okay, and if, you know, like they've gotten married, moved away, you can say that too. Okay, or, you know, and I would say lived with when you were like 12. Or later, depending, is you're telling your family. So, give you my example, okay? Okay, what did I sign? I told you my family that I grew up with. Go.
When you grew up, you had 1 sister, 6 stepbrothers and stepsisters. You said your mom and your stepdad. You have 2 dogs.
Well done, well done, good eyes. Okay, so you can do that, or I'll sign my family now. My wife. Old. Who read that? Go.
Oh, I just got the dog part.
Well, I got the dog bark. Okay, what are my 2 dogs' names?
Spock, and I know it started, was it the M in the beginning? Or, yeah. Oh, well, I know it ended in a Y, I couldn't figure out the middle one. That's a C. O, Y.
McCoy.
Oh, I've never
And
heard
see,
of
and I
McCoy.
know already that you're not a Star Trek fan. Bummer.
I knew who Spock was.
You know who Spock was, but then you don't know who Dr. McCoy is?
No.
So I've got Spock and McCoy, and if you wonder who Kirk is, that's me, okay? Anything else about my family, immediate family?
You have 4 kids.
4 kids? How old are they?
One of them's 23.
One of them's 23, yep.
25,
25,
21.
21,
31.
and 31, good. So, you know, among all of you, you got it, that's good. So you're watching.
Wait, so you have an older son and then 3 daughters?
I have two boys,
Oh, okay.
as I tell you, it's 2
Yeah.
boys, and then I did 2 girls.
Oh, okay.
So the older boys, younger girls. It worked out that way. Wasn't that special? Made for great fights. For those of you who have siblings. So, so that's how I'd like to see it done. Either way, you know, and you're kind of free on how you're going to do it, but you tell me who your family is right now. Who would like to go first? Woohoo! I like volunteers. Yeah, we'll go around just a second.
Question, how do you do cat?
Yeah,
Oh, Kat.
yeah.
Okay. Good
Yeah.
enough.
I think the only child I have.
I'm alone.
Yeah, okay.
I'm alone. I'm here. What, my mom, dad,
Married.
cheese,
Oh, married?
cheese,
You're not married?
not moving it back and forth, it's
Oh.
married. That's cheese. It's okay. I saw this piece as hamburger once. It was funny. There are hundreds of people around. Ooh. Good enough. Next! Yep. Usually you keep your fingers open. Because you could say triplets, quadruplets, sextuplets, quadrophenia. Oops. No.
That's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Can you tell me more about that sister?
She's an art major at DePaul.
What's her age?
She doesn't even know
Oh,
how
no.
old her sister is. Ooh, you must be very close.
We
The
have
art major at DePaul.
Yeah.
And what are you majoring here?
Nursing.
What?
Nursing. Nursing.
And you probably don't get along at all because one is artistic and the other one is
Oh no, we just
scientific.
fight.
What?
We just fight.
You just fight.
Yeah, but we talk like we're civil. Like I talked to her last night.
How old is she again?
About 22. Is that how you do
That's
it? Or
22.
Oh.
Remember? 22, 33, 44,
right?
42.
Yeah, 22.
So what did you guys talk about last night?
Dogs.
Dogs.
I might get a dog. That's all.
What kind of dog are you looking at?
I don't know. I'm looking into the Humane Society right now. So.
Let me know if you need any help because I have connections with some rescuers because both our dogs are rescued.
Yes.
You're up. 32-year-old sister. Wow. It's like a whole different
I
world.
know, I know. We got into a fight last night just to add on to everything.
What did you guys fight about?
Because she wouldn't apologize to me
What?
after like a month. She was being annoying.
She's
We
a-
literally fought from like 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. though. She just would not apologize.
On the phone.
Yep.
Do you know how to hang up your phone?
It was over text. Even better.
And you just have this compulsion to respond.
Yeah, she was being kind of a bitch.
So your moral life is taught you, remember I teach morality. I'm an emphasis. So your moral life has taught you when someone is being a bitch, I'm going to be a bitch back.
No,
Yes.
more so like,
Oh,
well,
no,
yeah.
oh, you weren't being a bitch back. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, I was, for
What?
sure.
What?
I for sure was being a bitch.
Oh, okay,
But like,
well.
but well deserved. And I got my apologies, so that's all that matters.
You won.
It was a win-win.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry. Ooh, they're divorced?
Yeah.
That's a great sign. Did you know that sign?
It was in the video.
Oh, I did do it? Oh, I don't remember always, so don't do that. But that was a good sign.
How do you say birthday? How do you say birthday?
With the middle finger and down. Birthday, that's birthday.
Today's your birthday.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
How old is she now?
13.
13.
Yeah.
And you got a dog?
Yeah. One dog.
What's the dog's name?
Chelsea.
What?
Chelsea.
What? Chelsea. Yeah. Like that part of New York City.
Sure.
Cool. Sure, you've never been?
No.
Well done, well done. Thanks for letting me plug the heck on you. Next. Oh, we already have there. Sorry. Don't have any virtual issues. Okay, so brother, sister, index fingers. You did it perfect, just you're doing it with 2 fingers.
Oh, okay.
Do it with 1.
Okay.
You're still doing it with 2. There you go.
Okay.
Brother, sister. Brother, sister. Good, and the dog's name? Two?
How do you do a B?
What?
I forgot B.
I forgot what? B. Toby. What a nice name. I think Todd would be a good one. Good work.
Joe's
Yeah.
coming.
I call it off. Ah. Make sure it has it in yellows.
I'm going to
Fine.
see the comments, sorry.
Go up there, it's okay. Nobody's gonna beat you. Joey, you ready? Okay. You've got a brother, 3?
No, sorry, 3.
3 brothers, oh, okay.
And then,
And 1 sister.
no, 1.
1 dog.
No sisters.
Well, what? No
And-
sisters.
No.
So sisters, none. Okay, watch. Watch what I did. Sister. And then bring it here. None. There you go. That means 0. Like you can use this for lots of different signs. I know nothing, or you know nothing. It's a really great tool. Good work, Joy. Thank you. All right. Sister 15. No dogs or anything?
One dog.
One dog.
One dog.
Jazzy. Ooh. Jazzy, come here. That'd be funny. Well done, well done. Ooh, 3 cats.
Yeah.
Mom a cat, well, cat,
Hmm?
is your mom a cat person?
Oh, that's me.
Oh, that's you.
She gave in to me. She's a dog. She's a dog person.
Ah.
Yeah.
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 That's a
We're gonna get more
placating
cat.
divorced child.
Huh?
The placating the child of divorce, yeah.
Yes.
Who do you spend more time with, mom or dad?
Oh, mom. She has full custody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You spend any time with your dad?
No, he kind of just.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, you know. Went to go get milk from the corner store. Never
My
came back.
my parents were divorced. My parents divorced, had a really nice stepdad who was an accountant. He was boring as boring could be. He was a nice guy, and, you know, my dad was an asshole, so. It's okay, they're all dead now, so.
Oh,
Say whatever I want.
okay.
So how old are your brother and sister?
Oh gosh.
Oh, God, if you have to pick people, what is wrong?
No, 19. What is 19?
Oh, you can't sign it, okay.
That's what it was. 'Cause I was like, it's not that or anything.
That's 16, yeah.
And then
25, good, excellent, good. You remember 25, a lot of
Yeah.
people forget 25.
it's because you just did it.
That was shy, I like that. No, hers. Because she said, you just did it, so I remembered it. I said, that's shy, I like that. Lazy. Ooh, good job. How old were you when your parents divorced?
Just started middle school, so.
Oh, must have been rough on your brother.
Yeah, he honestly took it better than I did.
What?
I was the sensitive one.
He what?
He took it better than I did. I was the sensitive one, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. Middle school's a rough time to do that too.
Yeah.
What's wrong with them? Ooh. So, you know, thank you, you did a good job. You were such a one. It's interesting, a lot of people are saying mother, father, they're married. I'm like, do I tell people that, you know, that the assumption is mother, father are married? Unless they're absolutely not, then they're just living together, you know? But, that's cool, yeah.
Right.
It's okay. Did a good job. Good. Thank you. Trust me, when the masks are gone, the hood's gonna mean even more. Because if you wear a hood and you're among death, they're always gonna go like this. Because you can't see your face when the hood's in the way. $35 cats? 3 cats, I'm sorry. Not even like, you know, 3 cats. Can you give us a name, one of them?
I can give all 3.
Ooh!
Ooh.
What? one's the worst? Which one hates you the most?
Alice.
They're always fingers.
She's a fat cat.
My son has a bad cat too. He named it after my mother. No kidding. Sits on the corner and attacks when you walk by. Bobby. No. How old are your sisters? Okay. 24. Oh, they're twins. One's twins with you. Oh, see, you got to tell those things. If one sister twin with me, you know, and then the other one, who cares? Did you guys gang up against her all the time?
I'm closer with my older sister.
Oh, really? Do you two gang up against your twin?
No.
Oh, sorry to hear that. What are sisters for otherwise? To protect you for the other one?
Yeah, we need protection from everyone.
Yeah. There's always a twin who's like evil. You've got to be the good one because you're in my class. 16. 2 dogs. Okay. It's like watching a girl react. You know, everybody's like, they sign the thing, then when they're done, they go. You're like, yeah, good job. Is that everybody? Oh, there's always someone who hasn't gone, you know.
Kaylee, she's got like a weird I or A and E in there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I see you miss her as well. What? You miss
Has
her?
everybody? Oh, we got 3 now. It's ready to stand up.
just me.
I thought you were the end. Do the cat and the dog get along?
Tucker's a bit of a bitch. That's a dog. He chases Milo around. It's not. It's like banter. It's like they get along, but they don't get along, but they get along. Like nobody gets hurt, but they also fight.
It's a love-hate
So the
relationship.
dog doesn't eat the cat, that's.
Well, I have like a mini pit bull,
Uh-huh.
and then I got this big, great fat cat. Honestly, Tucker loses a lot.
Yeah, I bet. The cat's got it.
Yeah, his nose is all scratched up from when he was a puppy. Cause he used to mess with Milo a lot, so Milo put him in his place.
So Milo's the big
Yeah,
brother.
he
who's-
weighs like close to 30 pounds.
Whoa, that's a big cat.
Yeah, he's cute. He's a I gotta think about what he is. He's like a
What is this?
He's actually what,
When you go like this after they say family?
tall, could be bigger.
Isn't that growing up?
Isn't it growing up?
Yeah, growing
Oh,
up.
growing up. Okay, that's what it.
But it's like, you're taller than me, right?
Yeah.
And you're shorter, but it's like when I grew up,
Gotcha.
so it's all context.
Mhm.
Yes, we're waiting. As you are. some interesting kind of dynamics.
I have my stepsister
Oh, okay.
and a stepbrother.
Oh, that was expected.
Well, what's half brother and half sister? Is that a
Half, one half.
okay? So
It's like, I think I sign that before? I have
Yeah.
a half brother.
okay, so I have two
One half.
half
Ah,
sisters.
so that, are they your mother's or your father's? The half brother, sister.
The well, one half brother is my mom's,
With your mom?
Yeah.
Good, okay.
and then one half brother is my dad's.
Oh,
One half sister is my dad's.
how do you keep track of them all?
I don't.
Okay.
We're
I
all
like that.
different ages, so it's.
Well done, well done. You know, my wife has, there's altogether in their families 8. Took me 5 years to remember all their names. Only because I didn't see them very often, so. Anybody else? Is this it? We're good. Good job, everybody. Well, it wasn't a hard thing to do. Come on, you stupid thing. Why is it not choosing? Well, you know what? I'm gonna try this one thing. What am I gonna do? Yeah. But I do that with this. Keep good. It's dark. If not, we'll just move on. Turn this on. Try it with this. I'm not sure if it's this projector or if it's something else bothers me. This bothers me.
I wanna say it's the projector. I think the projector usually has a green light on it.
I'm sorry?
I think the projector usually has a green light on it, not the red one, so I think that means it's turned off.
I think the projector is off.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it either usually has a green or blue light.
Undoubtedly, right? And it hasn't been going on.
Yeah.
Do you think it is the computer's fault?
No, this has happened to me before with a different class.
What did they do?
They had to call IT.
Did they work it out in class?
No, they came back later.
Sorry. Okay, now let's try it again. Doesn't even look like it's going on. laptops? You all have laptops? Sheesh, how many have laptops?
I also have an iPad that someone can
What?
use. I also have an iPad someone can use. An iPad
You have an iPad?
that someone can use.
Oh. Well, I think we could look over each other's shoulders. So let's do that. Is that all right? So I want you guys to go to YouTube. If somebody wants to come up here and watch. I want you to go to Dreams Spoken Here. Oh, okay, so yeah, Dreams Spoken Here. Everybody get that on YouTube? Who is that? Is that J-pop?
No.
I like K-pop. Yeah, it's a little child in front of it. Yeah, that's the one. With the little kid kind of like looking like they're dropping something.
What was it again?
There's
Dream?
right, that first one on there. You got it?
What are we looking up again?
Yeah, just, yeah. We're not gonna watch the whole thing. We're just gonna watch some of it.
Okay, 'cause I only have 5 minutes.
Okay, who are my
Yeah, well,
speech and language people here? Got one on top. Got it?
What was the name of it?
Dreams Spoken Here. Are you on YouTube?
Yes, that's the.
No, not you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Playing around. Oh my gosh, look at that. Not noticing. So you got it? Woo! Okay, play it. Start now.
Film focuses
Yeah,
on teaching
you
deaf
want to
children
listen to
to
it.
listen.
It's important to listen to it. Make them nice and loud so it's a cacophony.
Anna was born profoundly
Come on, full
deaf.
screen, people, full screen. We got good people down here doing the job. Joey is the best. It's all subtitled too. What? I'm actually teaching you an object lesson by doing that. Yeah.
Deaf children today dream of doing things
I don't like that.
For several months, Lila's parents have suspected she might have hearing loss. The result of this hearing test is inconclusive. Lila is in fact profoundly deaf. I'm completely surprised. This is much more than I ever expected of him.
ask American woman where you're at, right there, you can stop. Okay?
Where?
So we're almost done. If you're to the African American woman who's gonna explain about her child, but you can stop there. Yeah. What? And we're done with computers. Okay, so what you think of the video? Aren't those kids just cute beyond compare? You're like, oh my God. What did it, you know?
It was emotional.
It was, it's totally emotional. You know, the woman's, you know, I didn't think she'd ever be able to say mommy.
Amazing
It's
how
like
young.
got tears in her eyes. Oh my God.
It's amazing how young they can start to learn that.
Yeah? Anything else? Go.
It's kind of weird to me that like their immediate response was like, let's get them hearing and talking rather than like the parents starting to like learn ASL.
Right. Okay, so what I showed you is total and complete utter propaganda. You're seeing the best of the best kids, and if you had continued on, they have some even, you know, cooler kids who are like, oh my God, look how much they did. But stop for a minute. The little boy's going, oh, but they're doing that with that. Well, he's mimicking them, just like everybody mimics each other. But here's a kid who could be signing a lot more than just, you know, looking dumb. I know this because my own children, all hearing, could sign before they could talk. Clearly. I mean, more cookie, you know, cracker, you are, you know, all that kind of stuff. But they all signed a lot. They told us what they needed. Bathroom. My kid, before they were 1 year old, all of my kids could sign bathroom. That's how they started going to the bathroom. You go bathroom? Bathroom. Oh yes, that bathroom. Yes. All my kids were potty trained by 18 months, which is pretty good. Some don't make it to 3, and that's normal. But it's all about communication, how you have that thing. A friend of mine, Laura Ann Petito, she's at Gallaudet now, but I knew her years ago when she was at McGill University. She did the initial research on baby signing. That everybody who uses baby signing now uses it because her research into deaf children babbling and how children learn language. How do you teach a child to speak? A hearing child. How do you teach them to speak?
Speaking to them.
By talking to them. So you're ba ba ba, when they're just these little 6-month-old things, you go ba ba ba, and what do?
Ba, ba, ba.
They go ba 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 back, and they look at you and go and you go back at them. So they get this. Is that funny? They get this communication. It's called babbling, and there's a reason behind it. Is because as you as you work, the child learns to mimic you verbally. So they kind of make the connection in their head with the mouth and the ear. Okay? For a deaf child, it's exactly the same way, except it's visual. They go like this, you go like this. You go like this, they go like this. More, you know, how does more connect? Is cookie hold up more, and they go, they do, and that's just the way it develops. Just like every language, you know, if you ever wonder why you didn't learn Spanish in high school, because Spanish teachers don't know how to teach Spanish. They don't realize you have to start at that very early beginning to just get you to say things. It's like the alphabet. How did I learn Greek? Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota. and the whole thing. That's how you learn languages. You start with the sounds, and you make the connections of the sounds in your head, and then you build from that. It's you know, it's a hard job. I learned Arabic, so it's a hard job to do, but you can do it in any language, just like me signing to you and making you sign back. You ever notice I make people do things the same again and again and again and again and again? Because I'm thinking that same way. And I know this because that's what my dissertation was about. How you learn visual language as a second language learner. So what we have to do together is we have to work out this question. Because ASL is nothing without understanding this question. What is deafness? Anybody got an idea? Come on, I'm a dialoguer. I don't like the one-sided me lecture you and you sit there. Well,
Not being able to verbally process language.
okay. Okay, right? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure because I changed it a little bit. Anybody else? You can yell if you want. I take yelling. Or just calling out or just saying something. Well, where are my speech and language people?
When you just like, when you lose aspects of hearing, but it doesn't have to mean like complete loss. It can be like moderate, severe, or I forgot the other one they mentioned. Loss.
Profound.
Would this be okay? It's variable. Does that make sense? Do you agree with that? Good. Speech and language people, where are you? Come on. You just watched the thing about deafness. What do they believe?
You said it's like a community too.
Now you're going really far. It's a language community. Yep, go.
Looking at it as like a speech path major, it's something that like can be like you can like work on, like treat almost.
What?
Like treat it.
Okay, so when you say treat it, what do you mean?
Like go through therapy and like
Okay.
and those
So,
sorts of things.
so would this be okay for you? Is that what you're saying? It's a medical condition?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's also, you have to be adaptable to it. You have to adapt to like environment, your surroundings.
Yeah, like I'm doing right now, where I have to walk closer to people because I can't hear you anyway. One must adapt. Okay?
The video kind of made it seem like it was a disability.
Okay, yeah. Which connects to the medical condition. Yeah. Good. Where's this side of the room going, you know? Need more of you guys. What?
It strengthens like other cognitive skills, like the challenges, your like dexterity
influences cognition. You aren't a verbal learner, you are a visual learner, right? Good. Come on, you guys.
I think sometimes it's misunderstood.
Oh, yeah, totally misunderstood. Excuse my handwriting. That wasn't one of my great skills.
There's a lot of different causes.
Yeah.
There are a lot of types that kind of go with that.
I'm gonna put a question mark there. Some deaf people are deaf because of illness. Some deaf people are deaf because of age, like me. Some people are deaf because it's genetic. See, this is where we get kind of scary, because there is a movement that has been part of deafness since the 1800s, where they wouldn't let deaf people marry each other or procreate. Yeah. Remember that they do that to Down syndrome people today. And it's just at the very beginning where people are starting to say, a Down syndrome couple, two people who have Down syndrome have produced children that are not Down syndrome. But then another question comes up: can they, in their limited states, everybody is limited, can they take care of a child? And I can tell you, it wasn't until really, I would say the 1990s, where people actually said they can. Prior to that, probably, I would say nearly 100% of those Down syndrome kids, young people who were thinking they'd fallen in love or something, were sterilized. Deaf people in parts of the 1800s and early 1900s were also sterilized.
Forcefully?
What does forcefully mean?
Like, against their will?
Against their choice, yes.
What? I feel like
Yeah.
that's crazy that, I don't know, I just haven't heard any of that.
Nazi Germany did it
Yeah.
all the time to lots of different groups. In fact, if you were considered undesirable, they just killed you. They sure did a lot of deaf people who were perfectly fine intellectually. They just considered them a waste product. But that's not new. What they believed was not new. It existed from way beyond before that. So all of these things are deafness. But I'm going to tell you one that you don't usually think of. Deafness is a human being. It's a person. We want to put our arm's length in it. If you watch that video carefully, the first thing you should notice is how those parents don't talk about their child as being deaf. They talk to them about their child and then something that's hurt them or influenced them or something they have to overcome. And really it's just a person. And the problem is that we don't treat deaf people like people. We treat them as disabled people, which they do not believe themselves. If you're a member of the deaf community, you don't perceive yourself as being disabled in any way. Okay, so you can't hear, who cares? How many here can do pole vaulting? You can? You can't be a pole vaulter? How many of you can run the 100-yard dash in 9.9 seconds. I ran a race with a guy when I was in high school, with a guy named Houston McTeer. He never made it to the Olympics because he blew out his hamstring. But when I was in a race with him, I ran my best 100-yard dash when I was much thinner and much more good-looking. You'd all be going, oh, he's so handsome. I ran it in 10.2, which is pretty fast. It's 100 yards, not 100 meters. He ran it in 8.6. You know how many yards he was in front of me? It was like I was standing still. He was way ahead. He had something special about him. He was just a guy. And when he blew out his hamstring, he was just a guy. His special skill was in a moment. Now, for deaf people, they don't see themselves in those terms of this special skill or anything else. And one of the reasons why I have this one class, which I think I might have to postpone to next semester, I teach everybody the bad signs. Do you know why I teach the bad signs? If you watched any of the first two of Deaf U, you would know exactly why I teach all my students the bad signs. Where's my Deaf U people? You saw it, right? And you? Yeah.
I only watched like half the first episode.
Oh, okay. Do you remember why? Because deaf people pound on hearing people. They say all sorts of shit at them, and hearing people like, yeah, ooh, cool, yeah, and you're like, and I've had lots of conversations with my very good deaf friends, and I said, I teach that shit to my students. They're like, no, you can't do that. Yeah, I sure can, because they can manipulate the hell out of you and say stuff that really they shouldn't say. You should be able to look at them and go, well, fuck you too. And trust me, I've seen it, I've experienced it. They don't do it to me because I know the signs, and I know all of them. And the reason I teach it is because they're people. They do all sorts of shit to each other, just like you do to other people, right? You just as few of you confess to doing shit to your brothers and sisters. So well, who knows what you do to people who don't know you, who you're like, oh my God, what is that? What's the problem that guy has? You know all that, right? Right? Do shit to other people? Yeah. In the back? It's kind of like, I'm not confessing. Yeah? Oh, you do. Oh, we know you do. We had that down on pat. First day. But I do too. I try not to. My wife is director of campus ministry, and people go to her and say, the shit I saw your husband doing and stuff. So what happens is this issue, the medical and the disability world, are about this. The video is about oralism. Oralism has a long history, okay? In 1817, a guy named Thomas Gallaudet said, he's a minister, UCC minister, said, I have a heart to help these deaf kids who are getting nothing, no education whatsoever. A few in affluent families were getting some education from some people, but it was just so variable, it just, you never knew what happened. And he said, well, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna find the best way to teach deaf children. And he took a boat to Europe, where there was talk about all these deaf schools going on. 1817, way back. What year was the Constitution signed?
1774.
Oh, sorry, 17. What was written? What was put out in 1776?
Declaration.
Oh, okay, you know that one.
I was gonna say it,
I'm just
but I
giving you a
didn't.
hard time. Trust me. Trust me. 1780.
Four.
Fine, it's 1782. Okay, so you're looking. That's not that far apart. 1784, 1817. Wow, that's less than 40 years, right? So we want to say the country is young, and it's, you know, and when a country's young, you're always looking out to find the best ways. And you've been around for a long time, right? Well, parts of Europe, kind of a crazy place. But so he went there, and he went to England, and they were using a kind of a modified oral method, kind of, you know, it just didn't do much for him. He went to Germany, where they had the oral method was definitely part of their world, and that's total German, you know. You know, the Germans, they, you know, like everything to be very nice and neat. And he was pretty amazed. He thought, wow, the Germans are doing that. They were making sounds, but some of them were actually learning how to talk. They were, you know, sort of getting some speech reading skills, but there was a great variability, you know. Some had a lot because they had residual hearing. Some had, you know, it was hopeless. And that's kind of the deaf mute came in. You were a deaf mute. You couldn't talk and you couldn't hear, so therefore you were, you know, thrown out. He went to a place in Paris. Now, anybody here been to Paris? It's a beautiful place, isn't it? It's amazing. I love it. And he met a priest named Abbé Lepie, and he had established a school in Paris, which still exists to this day. I've been there. I hung out there for a week. It was amazing. And they were using signs. And the big difference was, while, you know, in Germany they were learning trades, and they had a lot of trades being taught in Paris, but they also had a group of deaf signing about Descartes, signing about religion, having conversations about philosophy, math. It was, for Thomas Gallaudet, this was a miracle. He could not believe it, because he had been in Germany and was like really impressed. They weren't talking philosophy. They were just getting utterances out. And some people could understand them and some people couldn't. But everybody at the school understood each other. This was immense. So he said, I got to bring this back. He convinced a man named Laurent Cleric to come with him to the United States. So on the boat, which takes months back then, on the boat coming back, Laurent taught him sign language, and he taught Laurent how to read, write English. Pretty impressive, I'd say. And Laurent Cleric was deaf himself, and they started what was called the American Asylum for the Deaf, now called the American School for the Deaf. It's in West Hartford, Connecticut. I've been there a bunch of times too. There are lots of friends who teach there. So at this school, in a very short amount of time, they graduated a number of students, okay? And they kept teaching, kept going, and then in 62, I should really put it this way, because it was Gallaudet College. Gallaudet College for the Deaf was established by what president?
That's a good question.
What?
That's a good question.
Yeah! I thought you guys were educated. Who was the president in 1862?
No.
Oh, come on! Who was the president in 1862? Take a guess.
Barack Obama.
Oh, no. A poor guess. I want a better guess. You went to high school, you're in college, you had to have some U.S. history at least 4 times, and since you were a little kid.
Eisenhower.
What?
Eisenhower.
No.
1862.
The guy that got stuck in the bathtub. Yeah.
No, it's not Taft. Taft is much later. What? I'll get. He was after Van Buren. Is that helpful?
No.
Sheesh. Oh, well, I didn't hear it. I'm sorry. You gotta, Lincoln. What year did the Civil War end?
64?
1865. Thank you very much. Sheesh. So from 1869 on, Gallaudet trained a couple of hundred deaf teachers who went all around where, to the United States where it was. Lots of states that weren't there at that point. And those individuals taught deaf kids. And they taught them sign language, and the state schools that were created for the deaf, they were sign language centers. And sign language, as brought to the United States, was really more like French Sign Language. But it was in this period where French Sign Language became American Sign Language, became Americanized as American as apple pie. Although I do confess, when I was in France, I had no problems, working into FSL, Frank, big French Sign Language. And when I went to Italy, a little bit different. Spain, even more different, So every country has its own. But you'll find today that if you go to those countries, a lot of folks know ASL. A lot of folks. So from 1862 to 1880, this is considered the glory days of ASL. Where it really came to be really great, okay? In 1880, there was a giant congress in Milan, Italy, okay? And at the giant congress, it was about deaf education. Now, in the United States, we didn't care about any Congress or, that wasn't a big deal because most, if not all, deaf children were being taught ASL. I mean, some of the Germans came over and started a couple of oral schools, but it was small. But in 1880, this Deaf Ed Congress in Milan, fronted by that German bunch, and supported by this guy. Who was he? Who was Alexander Graham Bell? What? He had invented the telephone and lots of other things. One thing important to know about Alexander Graham Bell, his wife was deaf. And she had gone through the German way, and she spoke. And Alexander Graham Bell became this great supporter of oralism. And at the Deaf Congress in Milan, he made sure deaf people who signed weren't allowed into the voting structure. Thomas Gallaudet Minor himself, or Thomas Minor Gallaudet, Thomas Gallaudet's son, who was in attendance, was not allowed in. None of the deaf teachers from the United States were allowed in. Abbey Lapid's school was not allowed in. And in one stroke, deaf education went from the glory days to oralism. So from 1880 to about 1900, every deaf teacher who taught in a deaf school in the United States was summarily fired. And for the most part, in the USA, it was oral schools only. So you're going to find in oral schools, there's three kinds of students. Okay? One, the successes. Whoa, yeah, you can talk and you can speech read, sort of. We can, it's a little variable. And the failures, who usually just went out to be ditch diggers. And I think the middle group is kind of like, you know, somewhere in between these two. Sometimes they stayed in, sometimes they get kicked out. Okay, so these kids from this time until 1970, generally it was deaf oral education. In 1970, ASL was studied and understood as a language. It had achieved a certain level among the deaf community that it had become a language. Gallaudet College changed to oral. In 1970, it reverted back to sign language. Those kids in Deaf U owe a huge, huge debt to those who started back in 1970. Okay, so this was, you know, ASL's hell. But in 1970, this innovation in sign language helped people realize that things are going. Okay, that brings us to 2020. Now we live in what's called that's the sign for it. This is the sign for vampire.
Oh, I was gonna say snake.
This is the sign for cochlear implant. So when I'm with teachers and good people who are supporters of the cochlear implant, I sign CI. If I'm with deaf people, I sign Y.
Because it's reverting back to oralism.
What?
Because it's reverting back to oralism.
Because we're going back again to oralism. How do I know this? How many of you have seen on YouTube a video? I usually show one, but a video of a person the first time they turned on the cochlear implant. What is it like?
It's like so magical and beautiful, and they're crying, and they're like, well, once they get it calibrated so that they can hear comfortably.
No, I like it. Yeah, I like it when it's the first time they turn it on.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Oh, has everybody seen the one with the baby? Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, they see it in their face and they react to the noise and they seem, I mean, I don't know about the babies, but people who can hear, they get really happy and cry.
Yeah, and it talks about how they hear perfectly, right? Yeah, but that's bullshit. Okay? I have seen enough of these to make myself kind of feel sick. But they have this little kid, you know, and they're looking at, if we're going to turn it on now, and it's like, the little kid goes, you know, big face, he's like, whoa! Because you just turned on electricity into their brain. Any questions? If someone stuck a cattle prod on your butt and twisted it, what would you do? You would go, whoa, right? And that's exactly what's happening. I mean, at a much less, level, but that's what's happening. You're turning on something, and, and some folks get this. It works, it's success. And we're back here. For cochlear implants, we have 3 groups. Okay? 25% are successful. 25% are failures. That leaves that 50% kind of like, who knows? Yeah.
How much do they cost?
Well, we're gonna go there, trust me. So we're gonna get there just a bit.
Okay.
So this revolution among the oralists is almost to the point where deaf people have said they're killing the deaf community. However, if you watch Deaf U, what do you see?
They have a group that they call elite.
They what?
They have their elite group.
Yeah, well, we're not talking about the elite group, and talking about the group. Are there young men, young women with cochlear implants in the show?
Yes.
Are they signing?
Yes.
Yes. So we have this other group of people who go through all of this, and most of them, if they make it to Gallaudet, are successes. And when they get to Gallaudet, they go, holy shit, I could have been doing this. And they take off their cochlear implants to keep it on, and they learn to sign. And they learn to sign fast because you're in an environment where everybody's signing. So you learn much quicker. I wish I could get into an immersion class like what they do at Middlebury, where you have no choice but to sign. You have to sign every day, no choice, 3 weeks, you're done. You can learn it that fast. You can, but it's gotta be immersion. So this 50% here is, it's variable. Some are gonna be successful a little bit, some not gonna be a little bit, okay? But these failures, what happens is they have, in years past, they come to my classroom, the failures, and usually because they've been trying for years. That little boy, if he doesn't learn to speak and speech read, he's going to be asked to go learn sign language. He's going to learn it at anything from 5 years of age to 12. It depends on how hard they work at it, and it depends on a lot of other things. But the point is that we've got this huge number of children. They're not billions or millions, but we're talking tens of thousands, if not 100,000, bunch of children every year who don't learn to sign, and they don't learn to speak. What does that do for them?
Stunts their growth.
What?
It stunts their brain development and growth, especially in the left hemisphere. It stunts their growth.
It stunts, what's their growth? What growth happens between 5 and 12?
Like speech and language and like all like the cognitive functions and like they're basically like reducing them almost like not a vegetative state.
Yeah,
Somewhere there.
they don't learn that 1862 Lincoln was the president. What's your excuse? Yes.
No, I was just saying, yes, that's us.
Yeah. Okay, so here's just this little teeny piece of history, how it changed deaf people's lives, and then in 1970, it changed again. I can tell you, in my experience as a teacher of the deaf, as an interpreter, I can tell you, all through the late 70s, 80s, and 90s, there was this just exponential growth. as a teacher, I had to learn sign exact English, which is kind of like really bastardized sign language made into, so all the endings and parts of so you can learn to read better. That was the purpose of it. It was a crock of shit too, but I had to learn it because it was the thing. And then I had to learn to be able to sign English. So it wasn't until literally, what is it, 2000, when did I start there? 2003. I'm talking late in my career. I'd already been teaching probably nearly 20 years. Did they start saying, oh, let's start using ASL. And I was a founding teacher of the School of American Sign Language English in New York City. The only program of its kind in the United States. The bilingual programs, they have all sorts of things, but the one that they didn't have was this dual language. So deaf kids and hearing kids learn sign language together. Deaf kids and hearing kids learn to work with each other. Deaf kids and hearing kids. You know what the question I got from a lot of people? A lot of people come up, you're in a dual language room? They're teaching English and American Sign Language? And you have hearing kids there? What's the question you think they'd ask me?
Why?
Yeah, why? Why what?
What's the purpose?
No, it's better than that. Why would you?
Why would you do that?
What?
Why would you do that?
Why would we do what?
Put them together.
Better than that. Why would we teach
People who are here.
who can hear sign language? Well, I can, holy shit, you're stupid. Yeah.
Why did you originally get into sign language? Like, how did you get your start?
Long terms, I don't go back that far, but I can say I've known ASL a long time. And, you know, how I developed and grew was knowing deaf people. Now I've known deaf people, you know, seems to be like forever. But don't worry about my origins. I look at what your origin is. How can you develop? How can you grow? How can you gain this sign language? How can you think like a deaf person? Knowing this history is part of it. How can you think like a deaf person? And this is the challenge of this class. Me trying to get you to think like a deaf person. You saw me with my deaf friends in New York, because they consider me an equal. Why? Because I think like a deaf person. They say, deaf. Remember the sign for deaf is this? Think is this? Think like a deaf person. So I sign completely different, and my brain changes. If any of you have a second language or first language that's other than English, when you speak that language at fluency, you don't think in English. You think in the language you're in. And I do. And I know I do because I sign in my sleep. Do you know how I know that? Ask my wife. Actually, I've known since college. When I was in college, I signed in my sleep. And my friends were like, what the hell are you doing? Oh, sorry. So, when we look at these numbers, we have to look at a bigger number. So, to put a cochlear implant into a person's costs $60,000, and the government pays for it. The equipment and the hospitalization costs $30,000. That leaves
30?
What? That leaves?
30.
Okay, $30,000. Checking your, just making sure you learn math because you obviously didn't learn history. My wife is calling.
Have her come
I'm
in.
class. What?
I said, have her come in.
Have her come in. She's at home. Sorry.
Oh,
Come in. She's, but Layla, you know. Okay, $30,000 of it is for. Who?
Like the deaf person and their family?
No, it doesn't go. No, hey, look. I don't know. Hey, anybody had their appendix out? Did you get paid when they took it out? Did they give you a kickback like, hey, thanks for coming in. Here's $5,000? No.
no, she was saying that they are left to pay 30.
No. This is the amount that the government pays. Government pays the whole thing. If you got a deaf child, you can get a grant from the government for $60,000 because there's this, you know, these people who make them, the CIs, a lot of political clout, okay? Nobody wants any deaf children, right? Right? Oh, did I say anything about this guy?
What guy did he have a deaf son?
It's a leader in eugenics. Does everybody know what eugenics is? What's eugenics? You were not a guess.
I can't explain it, but like, I don't know.
It's practiced by the Nazis. Go ahead. Anybody? Oh, way in the back. Let's go.
Selecting the best traits.
Yeah, we want the best of the best of the best. Sir, right? Anybody here could do this? Watch carefully. Can you do that? No, of course you can, because I'm a Superman. Anybody else got any weird treats? Like, can you kiss your elbow or lick your elbow?
I'm double jointed.
I'm double jointed. Yeah. That's
No, like, are you double jointed here and here?
every finger. Oh, in the middle.
No,
Finger. Ooh,
I'm saying
yeah,
it
that's
goes
interesting.
back.
Oh, I like that. See, oh, you're special. You're gonna live. The rest of you, die. Do you understand what eugenics is? Eugenics is trying to find the best of the best traits, and anybody who's less than that, we get rid of. Why? Because we want people who are perfect
To breathe.
in their DNA and their genetics. They're genetically perfect, so therefore they're going to live longer and be happier, and we're not going to have disabilities, and we won't have all those bad things that cost money, right? So Alexander Graham Bell. Anybody here Polish? Can I tell a Polish joke without hurting your feelings? Yes, you know who Alexander Graham Belinsky is. He was the first American telephone pole. Oh, well, I tried. Okay, so Alexander Graham Bell. See, I should be killed because obviously I tell stupid jokes. But he was a eugenicist who really believed that by getting rid of deafness as being able to speak and understand, we can keep those people. The rest of it are throwaways. And this is a very common issue in our society and our culture. So we're back to the $30,000. $30,000 goes to who?
Labor.
What?
Like the hospital for like.
No, I said 60,000. 30 grand goes to the hospital and to the equipment. So the CI
Oh, I thought you
itself
said
and the
just that.
hospitalization costs about $30,000. It's actually a little bit more, but.
So the other 30,000 go to the people who made the CI?
So no, nobody would, they're not paying anybody from the CIA. See, this is for the doctor. Who does the surgery?
That's what I said.
Oh,
the
you
labor.
You gotta be louder.
I thought you were asking for it to pay the 30,000. That's why I said the family. I didn't understand.
No, the government pays the whole amount.
Gotcha.
Like no matter what? Like what if you don't have health insurance?
They pay it.
Interesting.
Why?
Are they that
Because they don't pay for any other type of
Yeah,
health
they don't pay
insurance.
it. Hey, look. I got a bad heart. No, you're gonna just suffer, you know, unless you got insurance. Why does the government pay $60K?
Eugenics.
For the same reason. Yeah, there's this bunch of people who run the cochlear implant. We're going to talk about the other people. Industry. They want to put them in everybody. So the government says we won't have to pay for deaf people. We don't have to pay for interpreters. We won't have to, except for one thing, we still have this 25%.
Yeah.
Are total failures. So it's, you get the stupid irony of this? Okay, so the $30,000 basically goes to the doctor, okay? Allie, I'm gonna sit around and say, well, he's gotta pay kickbacks to this cochlear implant people, so I'm gonna say he's gonna walk home with $10,000 per ear. This is per ear. So if a child gets 2, it's double that. And guess what? The government still pays for it. So he gets 10 grand, and let's say we'll be generous to the deaf. He does, well, I can tell you, I know in this state they do about 36 a month, a year. There's 6 doctors. Well, no, it's 36 a month. I'm sorry, it's 36 a month. About 36 a month. There's 6 doctors at Children's who do them. So I'm going to just say he gets 6 of them, right? Sometimes they get more, sometimes they get less. Okay? How much does he make in a month?
60,000.
You guys are better than I thought.
With math, not U.S. history.
Yes, obviously history is real. Okay, how much does he make a year?
That's a good question.
7,720,000.
Wait, no, 12. 12 months.
Right?
12 months.
12 months.
Oh.
Oh, gosh.
I'm just giving you a hard time, so. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. Times 2 is what?
12.
Okay, good. So at least I got that one right. 3, 4, right?
Yeah.
And how much?
6.
What? You said 6? How many of you would like to make $720,000 a year doing a few operations each, you know, maybe 6, so 36, 6, 30, we're talking 5 in a month. Yes?
Wouldn't they also make money off of like other visits from like other, either hearing impaired or just checking up on the implant itself?
Holy guacamole! Yeah, and if people have their own insurance, he gets to bill them. So he's making, you know, probably, you know, when everything's said and done, probably a couple $1 million a year. Does he? Yes.
Does the implant go into the cochlea? I know that's called the cochlea
Yeah, it goes,
implant.
winds right
So
into
it doesn't go into your brain at all?
Well, it depends. The cochlea is in your brain.
Well,
Next to it, you know.
yeah, but like it doesn't go into like any part of like the temporal cortex or like, I don't know. Like,
No.
Okay, so it's like not even that hard of a surgery.
No,
either?
it's not. You have to cut out a little bit of bone and slide it in, and you know,
That's so dumb.
and close it up and make sure it doesn't infect. Because in the first 20 years they were using it, they had a rate of about 1% got meningitis because of infection.
Yeah,
So about 1% though,
Gotcha.
1 in 100.
Yeah.
which is shitty, but that's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
So like, why don't they just put that towards ASL education every year?
It's probably far cheaper.
Oh my God! Why would not the government do such a thing? Because
Eugenics.
because basically eugenics.
Well, you started a school. Why don't you get a like petition to do that?
Eugenics.
Because we want hearing people. We don't want deaf people.
The government really funds our education, you really expect them to.
I'm sorry. Say it louder.
The government
Period,
really funds
I can't hear two people.
The government barely funds our education, you would expect them to do anything for anyone else?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, that's the truth. I mean, I'll be very honest. You guys should be paying about 1/10 of what you're paying at Marquette.
Yeah.
You should really tell
I mean-
all that.
I went to Loyola Chicago. Loyola Chicago was $1,500 a year when I was there, and it was considered expensive.
Not anymore though.
It's now gosh, like 50 grand now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's simple. It didn't jump. I'm not that old where
And
it's
inflation
gone up
hasn't gone that
500%. It hasn't. But there's a reason why the government pays these and not our own education. Because there's a belief that by creating hearing people, they will be productive members of society, whereas they see deaf people as not productive. Isn't that the worst? It's absolutely atrocious that we live in a country that believes this. This is why I'm very passionate about teaching ASL. Yep.
Is it common, or is it like a thing for people who have speech impediments that don't allow them to speak that need to learn ASL? It's like my little brother had apraxia when he was younger.
I'm sorry, speak loud.
My little brother had apraxia when he was younger,
Uh-huh.
so he had to learn how to do sign language, but he was also learning speech therapy, and that ended up working for him. But I'm just wondering if it's common for people who can't verbally speak to turn to ASL, and are they a part of the community?
Well, they're not part of the deaf community distinctly, but I've taught ASL to several autistic kids who were nonverbal, and when I did it, it was like, yeah, they're not verbal. They need to learn to do something. They need to communicate some way, and even the very severe ones did very well. And the reason was because they didn't have communication, and nobody knew what to do. And when you come in and you try something, you know, I'm a teacher. That's my background. That's who I am. And it just seemed natural to me to do it. It worked every time. I mean, there's a variability. I had one kid who had real issues, but he was able to learn probably, 100 signs that helped him communicate with the world around him. He wasn't going to talk about Descartes. He wasn't going to have conversations about Kant and morality. But he was going to have conversations about food, dogs, he's always going to be learning something in his world that he can embrace. Because we don't know what's inside kids. We don't know what's inside their brain until they develop communication. So you get this little 2-year-old kid going, not 2 years old. You guys were all talking at 2. And he's going, He could be signing and telling everything to his dad that's important. And you know that woman who cries, I was not sure she could be able to say mommy. Well, mommy, you know what? My kids were signing mommy before they could say it. It's simple. And it is propaganda that tries to get you to think of deaf people as hearing people. They're not. But they're not like French people, but they do belong to a different culture. Children, I believe, so in my heart, that children who are born deaf are born into a culture outside their own. 95% of kids born to deaf, are born to deaf. Sorry, 95% of children born deaf are born to hearing families. And if you watch Deaf U, you're going to find that elite group. The elite group are the deaf of the deaf. Their parents are deaf, their grandparents are deaf, their great-grandparents are deaf, and they're an elite group because that's the way that culture works. Because they sign like you and I would never believe. If you watch Deaf U, those books sign fast. You're not going to sign that fast for a long time. But don't worry about it. When they're around you and you're signing, they'll go slower. I'll teach you how to tell them. Slow down, please, now. And they do, yeah.
What is it like? Is sign language super different in other languages, or is it kind of like mimic American Sign?
Well, I will say this. I have struggled to learn a bunch of different national sign language. I have learned about 5. Every time there's things that connect in my mind that allow me to learn it because I had a foundation. So there's now, if you want to do it too, I'd really recommend it. There's an Italian sign language program for study abroad. Very cool. I want to go.
Do you also know those languages? Like, can you speak them?
Can I speak them?
Yeah, or do you just know them by sight?
Can you read my lips? No, I don't speak them.
Okay.
I
was
sign
wondering.
them.
I was just wondering.
Yes.
I was just wondering if you need to know them
So when I went to Italy,
in order.
my wife and I spent a month in Rome, and I'd known a little bit of Italian Sign Language, but we met this really nice deaf couple at the Vatican. We were actually there for a completely different reason, not to meet deaf people, but we got to. And I can say in probably 4 days I was signing at their level, just with them. 9 years ago, we went to Chicago. Anybody ever heard of Taizé prayer? They do it here. But they had the brothers from Taizé, it's a religious community in France, and we went there, and Brother Alois, their prior, is a good friend of mine. I told him, announce that deaf people come, I'll interpret, And, when I got there, he's like, hey, Dana, nobody signed up. I was like, oh, okay. And I said, no problem, I'm just here to pray then. And I started walking away, I hear him go, Dana! And there's a woman from Belgium. I'd never seen Flemish Sign Language, never. And in 2 hours of conversation with each other, kind of finding I was signing for her, I was interpreting for her, about 2 hours. Flemish Sign Language is not French Sign Language, it has some connections, but it's just the rapport you develop because you see things differently. As far as could I interpret for somebody right off the bat, only really the languages that I've studied. I know some British Sign Language I couldn't there because it's really different, especially the finger spelling. But in Flemish Sign Language, it's the same as ASL, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, so I could do that easily. But it was cool because we were signing the songs of Taizé together as signing what she was there. She had been there to Taizé in France several times. We were signing the songs. The last day, my wife was, because I had my back to all the people and we were kind of midway through. So we're sitting on the ground. And, so I was, I can't remember the song, although we did see it on YouTube later. And we were signing, and then literally the whole place started signing with us. It was like, oh, so cool. But you can, if you learn this language and really fight through the hard stuff to get to think like it, you'll learn. You will. There's just no doubt about it. That's thinking like a deaf person. So knowing this history, I think I'm not going to get to vocab and poetry. So I'll post something for these two on online, but if you know this and understand the forces that are seeking to, and for lack of a better way of putting it, destroy the deaf community. If you understand that, then you're stepping into a different world. And I always tease the speech and language people. Trust me, I don't not like you. I do like you guys all a lot. And I appreciate the work you're looking to do because it's so much more than just working with the deaf. You know, but I can say that learn sign language, then you'll have something to work with those kids who are having a hard time. Because it gives opportunity for kids who may just need that extra little support, you know, and maybe that one little thing is going to help them get over themselves to be able to enter into a better educational experience. So thanks for staying this long. We're done. Anybody questions?
Are you teaching ASL2 next semester?
Yes.
You are? Cool.
Hopefully next year we'll be teaching 3 and 4.
There's a 3 and 4?
Like to fight for it. Still trying.